Good evening. Welcome to this regular board meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before calling this meeting to order, the board would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. The order of this business for this meeting is to set out the agenda. One item that you may notice on the agenda is a consent agenda. This item includes items that are considered routine and/or reoccurring in nature. All the items listed under the consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. If there is a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up and speak to the item, and we will pull it from the consent motion and discuss it separately. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason, it is held in public. It is not a public forum. However, we do provide the opportunity for the audience participation. If there is anyone who would like to address the board during the agenda item or citizens to be heard portion of the agenda, we ask that you please register on the sign-up sheet located at the entrance of this room, which is where Monica will be standing. This is so that we don't overlook anyone who would like to speak to the board. We will review the rules for addressing the board later in this meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to sign up for the agenda item now who has not had the opportunity to do so? Okay. So this meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand as Trustee Karen Freeman will lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. So let's go ahead and begin with the public hearing.
Could I recommend that you might explain why you're leaving the meeting?
Oh, okay. So as you all know, this is Melissa Chumpley's name, and I'm not Melissa. So, oh, Carol Hall. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, there's another one, right? So here's what happened. Our president, Melissa Chumbley, had business outside of San Antonio, so because of her work, she was at the coast, so she was not able to attend. And at this time, too, as well, Carol is on her way, is en route to the board meeting, so she should be here, just had a little bit of delay. And so by protocol, I guess since I'm the secretary, I have to fill in. So this is my first time. It's kind of like driving, right? You know, you're a student driver. You're all nervous, so I'm a little nervous. Bear with me if I mess up. I don't intend to keep you here longer than supposed to. So with that, we are going to go. Oh, and as well, Bobby is on his way as well, so he will be here. With that, let's go ahead and start the meeting, or let's continue with item number 3, the public hearing, which is Janice, the optional flexible school day for Chavez Excel Academy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Lopez, Dr. Woods, Board of Trustees. This is an annual public hearing where we get to present the results from our students who attend optional flexible school day program at Chavez Academy. The goal of the program is to improve graduation rates for students who have dropped out, who are at risk of dropping out, or who are significantly behind in their coursework. Progress towards the goal of the program are required to be presented to the Board of Trustees in a public hearing. The information has been sent to you, and you will see we have a lot to be happy about. There were 317 students in the program this year, and their graduation rate is at 87%. That's an improvement from last year and the year prior. In addition, we see that 100% of students who remained in the program completed all of their courses. So we are very happy to present these results to the state as we move forward to seek approval for another application. there any questions?
Do anybody in the audience have any questions or would like to talk about this? Nobody in the audience? Am I correct? Oh, you can come up. Okay. It is a public discussion, so.
Sorry. You noted that 100% of the students who stayed in the program were successful. How many, but you don't state the number that dropped out. What you also don't state is the number that were rejected from the program, were never allowed into the program, and who have now dropped out of Northside ISD. Lovely statistics. I'm so glad for you guys. But what's not reflected in the statistics that you mentioned is the failure rates. So
Yes, good input. This is specifically around students attending Excel Academy, which is a very focused program for students with certain needs.
Okay. You have a follow-up
sorry.
question?
This really isn't meant as a dialogue.
But it would
If
just-
you have commentary,
she just didn't answer the question.
Would you give us your name, please?
I'm Lois Olving.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead. Any board members have any dialogue? Any questions? None. Okay.
Well, I
go
would
ahead.
make a comment. I thought the numbers looked really good, and it's a program that continues to grow. There was one sort of reduction in total number of students the 1 year or last year. Was that because we moved the location, you think? Did that have anything to do with that?
Perhaps. I haven't heard anything specifically about that. However, we continue to have terrific success for these students. As you know, many of these students are parents, they're mothers. Some have their teen mothers. They may have even multiple children, so you can imagine some of the challenges that brings. So we continue to see growth in not only participation, but in their success.
Right. And sometimes we even have grandparents that graduate from there. So it's interesting to see that we are able to, at this point, really facilitate people, not just necessarily students, people to come back and to get their high school diploma or GED. And I think it's available to anybody that wants to come. So thank you for working on the program.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and close the discussion for item number 3. And we're gonna go ahead and move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
yes, sir. Mr. Lopez, members of the board, Dr. Hall, welcome. Just a couple of really very brief items. The first thing I want to mention is just thanks to the members of our board as well as so many of our high school staffs for another successful graduation season. As members of the board know, we don't have graduation night, we have graduation week and a half. So again, thanks to all of you for your participation in that. I think it's an important thing that we all devote time to at the end of the school year. We walked just over 7,000 students in those 12 ceremonies over that 10-day period of time. So again, thanks to all of you. I also want to mention Assistant Superintendent Steve Daniel, his secretary Monica Bennett, and it takes a lot of effort to make that come off and look like it does. So thanks to them and our high school principals and their staffs as well. Since the end of the legislative session, as you know, we've spent many hours studying the impact to us from various pieces of legislation, not the least of which is House Bill 3. As you know from last week's work session, much uncertainty still exists in the exact impact on our budgets. However, we are coming down towards budget finalization time. Tonight, we will actually bring for your consideration growth and improvement packages that really aren't impacted by legislation. And then coming in the near future, we'll bring a recommendation to the board with regard to compensation. I know that there's a lot of energy around that in our state. I know there's a lot of energy in this room with regard to compensation. And we're trying to do what we always do, which is balance doing the right thing for very well-deserving employees, lots of employee groups, as well as create a budget that is sustainable for the district in the long term. So very soon we will bring you that recommendation with regard to compensation. And with that, I will stop and we will transition to video moment.
You can study from your cell phone, study the notes.
For James Bloom, much of his adult life has been spent right here in the classroom at John Jay High School.
John Jay opened in 1967, and I got here in 68. I transferred over here, so I got here the second year they were open. And I've been here for all 9 principals.
Add 1 year at Sam Rayburn Middle School, and James has been teaching in Northside for 54 years.
It's fun. It's fun working with the kids and, you know, seeing a new group of kids each year and their different personalities. And
James has known he wanted to be a teacher since he was young, inspired by his mother, a teacher herself.
And she set it up to where I was going to be observing in an English class, American history class, and a world history class. I didn't realize at the time, but these were the 2 top teachers they had over there. And I saw how much fun they were having teaching their class, that I thought, you know, this could be fun, you know.
And that fun has continued in his history, government, and economics classes ever since for countless students over the years.
On the average, 30 kids times 5 times 65, or 54.
That's more than 8,000 students who James has had the chance to give a wealth of knowledge. And now that James is retiring, his prosperity comes from knowing and appreciating what he's leaving behind, the students.
The fact that I wanted to keep coming back to be with them, you know, they're very important, and I'm going to miss them.
That's a look at what's going on around Northside. Thanks for joining us for this video from Northside Media Productions. Northside is San Antonio's premier school district of choice.
So, Mr. Bloom, as board members know, we got to recognize him in May at the retirement ceremony. Not many people have a 54-year career, much less 53 of it at a single school. So that is absolutely amazing. I remember when I first met Mr. Bloom, he was a long way from 54, and he said, "You will see me at 50." And I said, "Okay, Mr. Bloom, I believe you." And then when I saw him at 50, he said, "I'm going. I'm still going." So he is an icon in that community. He will certainly be missed in that community, and we wish Mr. Bloom and all the retirees the very best. I'm not sure how many of us can say we made it 54 years in education. That is a long time.
That's a lot.
So, Mr. Lopez, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Woods. At this time, we're going to go ahead and go to the board's members' report. Let me ask for, Carol, would you like to come in and assume the role now?
No, just keep
You sure?
going. You're doing
Okay.
a great
Just,
job.
I want to make sure because, okay.
I'll
My
switch
name
the
is
name
there?
tags if y'all want. So.
It's okay. You can come in. It's okay. All
You're
right.
doing
All right.
a great job.
Okay.
Great training.
All right. I just want to make sure.
Thank
so
you.
At least I gave you that opportunity. Okay. So board report. Anybody would like to sign up for a board report? Do I have anybody? Okay. Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez and board members and all our visitors. It is a great group of visitors. So I just wanted to go over real quick. This is my first week off from work. I'm a school administrator, but I've also visited some campuses recently. And the custodians, I want to recognize all our custodians and all our cafeteria workers that are, feeding meals this summer. Getting classrooms, all the floors stripped and waxed, and it's just all our maintenance operation guys that are out there cutting limbs that are down because of this last weather. But those are all those gears that make us a well-oiled machine. But again, I want to recognize all those and even the teachers that are continuing the enrichment programs that are going on campuses, as well as some of the interventions. And, keeping our kids really active this summer has really been a real eye-opening from the Northside Aquatics. Kids at every community pool is in there. They're in the pools early in the morning. And then I think cross country has already started. I almost hit a couple kids. They're running. They're running all over our streets.
Don't do that.
And so just all the activities that are going on in Northside, that it's as if it's a normal day But I do want to recognize, our kids that are being active, and our teachers and our staff that are out there getting, keeping our kids busy and keeping them occupied. So it doesn't seem like they're really, adapted to their summer. But again, it is a really good sight to see everyone moving and all the construction that is going on.
Good.
But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Freeman?
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Um, So just an interesting comment that pertains to our graduation. Somebody came into our office right before graduation and they said, I'm going to be going to one of your graduations tonight, but I don't know if I'm going to be on time. Surely you never start on time, right? 30 minutes late. And I said, no, we start on time. And the person acted really surprised. So, I think some of us take for granted, sometimes I do, that things just happen like they do here. But staff truly work hard and make that happen, and we do start on time. And it's just like clockwork. So I really appreciate how we conduct our graduations, and they went off really well. Had the opportunity to attend SLI amidst some of the graduations, and went to the legislative update. And I think what was really interesting, and Dr. Woods, you talked about this a little, TASB talked about HB3. The Texas Association of School Boards had a summer leadership conference here in town at the same time we had our graduations. And after each legislative session, there's a legislative update in which we are all required to, as board members, to go to participate in some legislative update at some point in time after a session. What was talked about was HB3 and all the intricacies of HB3. A lot of questions from board members, a lot of testimony from board members that said, I know school districts are getting X more dollars, and how come I'm not? A lot of questions that were generated, and quite honestly, and boards and school districts facing the difficult decisions, some school districts have to set their budget by July 1st. And TASB Legal was there, and TEA is still going to spend a lot of time trying to sort out some of the intricacies of HB3. And TASB, as well as TEA, I heard, Mike Morath spoke at one of our luncheons, and pretty much their advice is take your best guess. And Dr. Woods, I think perhaps you've probably heard that. So it's some school districts, including us, I think we're gonna do the best that we can with what we have. But it is an interesting time. There was also in the legislative update information about, to my fellow board members, a couple items that are going to require additional school board training. Certainly a lot of items on safety. TEA certainly got their work cut out for them regarding rulemaking, and Mike Morath, who again did talk to us at the luncheon, mentioned that TEA had webinars beginning this week and from now until November is what I understand. So we'll be all anxious to hear what that all means. That's all, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen. Katie?
Thank you. I would say that since I've been on this board, graduations have continued to grow because there were only 5 high schools when I came on the board, and now we have 12. So it's a whole lot different type of activity for us. But I have run into so many people this past week who have said, boy, you all really run those efficiently. And I would say the last one that we did, which was for our brand new high school, Harlan, so it was a little bit smaller. I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes, and it was over. So that is efficiency, let me tell you, because you have speakers and the principals at the schools do look at what the valedictorian and salutatorian are going to say to make sure it's appropriate and not too lengthy. So it's our pleasure to be able to do that and to hand out those diplomas to those kids, and they are so happy when they get them. One of the things I wanted to mention tonight was the lessons newspaper that comes to everybody's home. I would tell you that I had a little part in that because when I came on the board, I didn't have any children in school, and I said, how do people find out about what's going on in Northside? And they said, we send things home with the kids. And I said, no. I mean the people who don't have kids in school, and that's really like almost 80% of us, I think, now. And so at that time, very quickly, Jack Jordan and Bonnie Ellison worked it all out, and we came up with lessons. And I think this copy of lessons this month has been really great. The front page talks about the pilot program for STEM for elementary kids and the innovative initiatives that we are starting this fall in Northside. So there's a lot of really good information in there, and we also then have updates on all the bond programs that are going on, so everybody knows where your money is going and what's happening to it, and all the results and things that we possibly can. And we had valedictorians and salutatorians pictures this time too, so that was kind of a neat thing to have the kids in the program for a change. So congratulations to all those who helped put that together, and to the superintendent for making sure those articles were there. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Katie. Dr. Harrell?
Katie, thanks for mentioning, we had 12 comprehensive high school graduations, and then that included our magnet schools, and then earlier Health Careers High School. I think what really kicked it off in an incredible way as well was the Nellie Reddick's transition celebration. And honestly, our partners that help us out with that by offering a form of internships, but definitely jobs afterwards. The wonderful tweets that are coming out about the kids that now have full-time jobs, and how wonderful that is that they use their VIA expertise to get to and from work, and then even ones that are finding places to live outside of their family home. Wonderful, heartwarming stories. So if you don't follow Northside on Twitter, you need to, because these little tidbits of personal stories and successes through the teacher's eyes are incredible. And so, but thanks for Nellie Reddick's for doing that as well. And that was a great celebration. And then I just love how everywhere you go, when you're in Northside, there's wonderful things to offer to our families that hopefully take advantage of the free lunches, the free support that our schools have, so that kids aren't going hungry over the summer. They're able to be in different reading programs and enrichment programs and fine arts programs, and we have a middle school celebration this Thursday. Just incredible things going on. And so like Joseph was saying, it's like school didn't end. It's still going. And so, but incredible things. Thank you very much, Mr. Lopez.
You're welcome. Okay, that's it. I won't, touch on too much. Yeah, just a reiteration of the graduation, thanking Steve and his staff and Dr. Woods and all the administrators and everybody for the efficiency of the graduation. It really went well, and it was really efficient. So on that, and really appreciate that. As well as, there are a lot of activities like Joseph said, and it's good that, we as a district are really looking at keeping our kids motivated, keeping them thinking, and that's what you're going to see here at Northside. Since I've been on the board, having seen everybody's got something to do, and all our kids are being participative in one way, form, or another. Either through sports, theater, reading classes, things like that. So those are good things that are happening, and so thank you very much, Mr. Medina, for bringing those up, and Dr. Carol Harrell for mentioning those. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the no recognitions. We're going to do reports. So we have a report for the 2018-2019 School Health Advisory Committee, the annual report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lopez. As you know, the Northside ISD has a School Health Advisory Council, which we refer to as SHAC, and it's a group of individuals who you appoint from the community along with some of our staff, and they look at a whole host of issues that surround the physical health of our students. So this year is no different. They've been very busy, a lot of great work. So as is tradition, we will have the chair of the SHAC committee give the 18-19 report. So please help me welcome Allison Polston.
Good evening, everyone, and it is a pleasure to be here tonight giving the SHAC report for the year 2018-2019. As mentioned, my name is Dr. Allison Polston, and I'm here to just let you know what we did this year. The Northside School Health Advisory Council is made up of 29 individuals, 12 of whom are voting members, 6 parents, and 5 general members. 16 individuals were advisors, which included 2 student advisors, Eric Queller from O'Connor High School and Grace Polston from Health Careers High School. Our community advisor, Amber Garcia, joined us from the local chapter of the American Heart Association. And Danielle Leon served as our district facilitator. The SHAC met 6 times during that 2018-2019 school year. Members focused on the board superintendent goal to improve programming around the notion of educating the whole child, to include healthy lifestyles, safety and security, engaged learning and supports for students and families. The specific SHAC committee work for school year 2018-2019 that are aligned to the board superintendent goal is as follows. Number 1, mental health. Create common language and expand knowledge of social and emotional competencies. 2, physical activity and fitness. Focus on a means to increase student physical activity and engagement in a variety of school-based health and wellness activities, elementary specific. And social media goal. Develop a social media icon that will be located on each campus website that links to information regarding social media awareness. This information is housed on the Library Services webpage. Target population is for parents and guardians. The SHAC also had various presentations throughout the year that align with the board superintendent goals noted above. The presentations included Kids Heart Challenge, presented by Amber Garcia, community advisor for the American Heart Association. Becoming a trauma-informed community, 10 things to know about adverse childhood experiences, presented by Dr. Colleen Bridger, director of San Antonio Metro Health. Human Immunodeficiency Virus, HIV, presented by Dr. John DeWood, medical director at the Metropolitan Health District. Stop the Bleed presentation and certification, presented by Eric Queller, student advisor, O'Connor High School. Certification was presented to SHAC members by healthcare professionals from University Hospital and community members from stopthebleed.org. In addition, SHAC members reviewed and unanimously recommended the implementation of the 6th grade pilot Healthy Habits course for 8 middle school campuses during the 2019-2020 school year. The course is a 12-week standalone course to be integrated as part of the PE and/or advisory rotation. Topics include life skills, social and mental health, personal hygiene, social media, e-cigarette prevention, alcohol and drug prevention. As a parent of 2 Northside children, Grace, 12th grade at Health Careers High School, that just graduated, and William, 6th grade at Luna Middle School, I'd like to express my gratitude for the unwavering commitment that NISD demonstrates towards the health of the students. As a medical professional, I understand that by focusing on the whole school, the whole community, and the whole child, we ensure that all students attending NISD are given the best learning opportunities by being mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy. As outgoing chair of Northside's ISD SHAC, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to represent the district. It was the SHAC's privilege to serve as advocates for the health and wellness of our NISD students and staff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Polson.
Thank you. Do we have any board members that would like to discuss anything? Karen?
Thank you. Just to thank you, where did our chair go?
Allison.
Thank you so much for your work on the shack, and to all the members of the shack. Please bring back, do they meet again before we appoint new members? If there's an opportunity to thank all the members that participated this year, please do so from all of us, because I know that they did a lot of work this year, and part of your work with the whole child reflects some of our board superintendent goals, and so we appreciate the work that you've done. Thank you.
Janice, are there any other members here from SHAC?
Well, we have some of our staff members here, but I don't believe there are any other community folks.
Thank you, Dr. Polston, and staff as well. Thank you for your work, and really appreciate, as Mrs. Freeman said, connecting the work of the shack to some of the district's goals. Really appreciate how well aligned that was. Thank you for that.
All righty. So the next item for the agenda is the consent agenda. So with that, do we have any board members that would like to pull any items from the consent agenda, or?
I would move approval.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please go ahead and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Looks like the ayes have it, so the motion moves forward. The consent has been approved. The next item for the is citizens to be heard. I do have a couple of things I just want to read before the citizens to be heard. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. For our citizens to be heard, we believe citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we will listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law from taking any action. So for the regular agenda items, we value your opinion. We will listen to what you have to say. So please use the podium, address your remarks to the board, confine your remarks to an NISD policy or practice. Limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, Dr. Harrell will raise the yellow card. At 2 minutes, the board secretary, at 2 minutes, she will raise the red card. We ask that you wrap up the remarks at that point. Do not make personal attacks on any individuals. And we ask that audience should refrain from applause or a negative response. Thank you. So the first, so for the first one, we have Wanda Longoria.
Madam President, esteemed members of the board, and Dr. Woods. I'm Wanda Longoria, President of Northside AFT, and I'm here on behalf of our members who work diligently to make Northside ISD a premier district. AFT has had incredible mobilization efforts during numerous legislative sessions. However, it was during this session that we were finally able to have productive conversations with our legislators, which brought forth the fruits of HB 3. We want to remind our district officials of the critical role we had in helping to make this legislation pass. However, we'd be remiss if we did not recognize David Rastellini, Naomi Miller, Dr. Woods, and countless others, including members of our own board, for their efforts and support. Across the state, several districts have pledged to give their employees anywhere from a 5 to 10% salary increase, in addition to increasing contributions towards the rising cost of health insurance. These announcements are being made ahead of the July 12th deadline that teachers are given to resign from their districts legally. Last week, I made mention of the Go Banking report and its listing of San Antonio as number 10 in the top 20 cities who are projected to see the most significant cost of living increase. Yet, other San Antonio school districts are proposing some of the lowest percentile increases in comparison to school districts across the state. While Dr. Woods' comment that NISD will have no compliance issues and the district will far exceed recommendations is promising, we urge NISD to take the lead locally by ensuring that we stay competitive with communities offering a 5 to 10% increase for their employees. We are pleased to see a response to a question that's been brought up on TASB's HR exchange. Question: we've heard this money will go away and we should pay the increases as stipends. Is that true? No, the money for these increases is not specific to this biennium and will persist beyond the next 2 years. As such, the increases can be added to base salaries without worry that the money is going away in 2 years. TASB further added, increasing the base teacher salary will support recruitment and retention efforts, particularly considering how much the state minimum teacher salary schedule is increasing and how many districts are adjusting their teacher pay structures accordingly. We want to showcase how districts across the state are offering salary packages with retention raises emphasizing 5 to 15 years plus teaching experience. School districts understand and should value experience and loyalty by retaining their best employees through pay increases. Though other districts may find themselves in the very predicament we're in, that's not stopping many of them from announcing some significant salary increases. As monies are released, per HB 3, constituents and state legislators will be watching. You have the great responsibility of raising educator salaries and offering better benefits. What will Northside ISD do? Respect and recognition go a long way to building morale, trust, and productivity. How will Northside answer this call? We pray that it will be in favor of honoring the employees the way others in the state have compensated theirs. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Wanda. If I could just remind you guys that if we could just stick to our 3 minutes, I mean, we'll be as lenient as we can. Just want to be fair to everybody else with their time. Our next person is Tracy Jordan.
Howdy. Good evening, Mr. Lopez, board members, Dr. Woods. My name is Tracy Jordan. I am a teacher at one of the 2 Title I high schools in the Northside Independent School District, John Jay High School and the Science and Engineering Academy. And I'm also a proud member of the Northside AFT, Local 3216. And these 2 memberships that I'm a part of have brought me to try to address some rumors here. One rumor was that Local 3216 helped get 3 of the 4 board members reelected. That has some things to it. But the rumor I want to talk to you about tonight, that maybe we can dispel, is that this board is going to offer a 2% increase to its teachers. Now, if that happens, it's really not an increase. It's really not even a cost of living total. And so, I mean, let's talk about the teacher who is a single mother, has her 2 kids in Northside ISD, and the 2% won't even cover her rising insurance costs. Okay. What Northside AFT has proposed is a 3.5% increase for teachers and a 4.5% increase for support personnel. Mr. Medina, you mentioned about how our schools look, thanks to our custodial staff, how they're out there moving along, waxing the floors, everything like that. Personally, what I can tell you is that we're short-staffed, yet every morning when I walk into my classroom, the trash cans are empty and the floors are clean. They are spotless. Now, if you are going to just offer a 2% increase, I don't believe that will send the right message. The message is thank you for all that you do, and consider that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. The next individual is Teresa Galvez.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Galvez. Last week, Mr. Restolini unveiled a projected increase of $10.3 million in the budget allotted for special education. I came here tonight to offer some suggestions on how to best invest this additional funding to improve student outcomes. In 2011, budget cuts resulted in the loss of over 100 special education positions. This has left many students without needed aids. It stretched resources by splitting one teacher between multiple collaborative classrooms and resource rooms, and it reduced the number of support specialists. Meanwhile, the number of students continued to increase. So first and foremost, staffing for special education needs to catch up to the increased student population. Next, as a veteran parent with a child who has received special education services for 12 years, I can tell you need to invest in autism training for all of your staff. I'm talking bus drivers, IAs, teachers, administrators, police, and cafeteria staff. All of these staff members come into contact with our special needs students. It's imperative that they all know what to expect and how to work with this population. To improve behavior outcomes, I suggest hiring several BCBAs to implement a program to provide registered behavior therapist training for your IAs and campus special education teachers. Many of our kids don't respond to the methods prescribed by TBSI, so RBT training would provide a fresh approach to tackling the behavior challenges that often accompany disabilities like autism. I suggest hiring LPCs to provide the mental health services many of our kids need. We love our school counselors, but their training simply has not prepared them to respond to the needs of our children. Many of our kids attend general education classrooms, so teachers need flexible seating. They need carpets and pillows to create the perfect relaxation space in their classroom, and every school needs a sensory room to let our kids burn off that extra energy so they can make the most out of the time in that classroom. I'm urging you to use every cent of special education funds for direct services and supports for our special education students. This isn't about putting one group of students' needs above another's. This is about using allocated funds for their intended purpose. With the right supports, services, and dedicated, compassionate teachers, our students can succeed. As I said, I'm a veteran parent. My son was admitted to special education in kindergarten. Back then, teachers reported that he regularly could be found hiding under his desk. He would run, hide, and fight when he was overwhelmed. He couldn't tolerate assemblies or choir performances. He's now a senior at Business Careers High School. He's earned 26 college credit hours so far. This month, he completed a state solo choir competition. His SAT scores have attracted the attention of Harvard, Yale, and Columbia. This is what can be accomplished when a student receives appropriate student supports and services. My son is a success story, but his success is an anomaly. It doesn't have to be. You have the power to ensure that all students can reach their maximum potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next individual is Luis Hilgin. Holguin?
You can't say Holguin.
Holguin? Okay,
¿Cómo no?
all right.
My name is Lois Holguin, and I am a dyslexic parent. And what I'd like to, we have a 2.1 million funding within Northside for dyslexia. And as an experienced parent with dyslexia, what I can tell you is that we're not using the curriculums that are mandated in the Texas Dyslexia Handbook or laws. Our identification rates are horribly low, especially when we're looking at our ethnic groups. They're just incomparable when we look at the number of dyslexics who are in GT classes, 0 for our black students, 0. and our black students are the lowest identified. However, 50% of white students are in GT dyslexia. What I'd like to propose is a committee, a dyslexia committee, similar to those at HISD, Fort Worth ISD, at Austin ISD. As the fourth largest school district in Texas, we should be one of the leaders for dyslexia, not one of those ignoring dyslexia. Northside is so proud of the services and the innovative programs in their magnet schools, but your dyslexia program doesn't mirror that intensity. This is a literacy issue, the number one reason we send our kids to school. And one of the things is we have a 3.85% identification rate. It's a cap. Just like the 8.5% cap that we have with special education, there's a 3 to 4% cap going on throughout the state for identification. We're not exceeding to the proper numbers of 8 to 10%. Northside certainly isn't. What I'd like to, some of the experiences we've had at Northside is special education teachers who have no dyslexia awareness. We have BMC teachers who aren't SPED certified. We have BMC teachers who have no dyslexia experience. I was told after school concluded that many of the teachers in BMC weren't going to take the dyslexia training that were being offered. So what I'd like to ask for is a community group that talks about how the $2.1 million will be spent, how to grow the dyslexia program within Northside, and how to make it a significant program, not something you're hiding, like not being able to find out who the 504 dyslexia coordinator is, who the dyslexia coordinator for SPED is, and the fact that we have only one CALT in the district. Let me be clear, Chief 3000 does not meet the Texas Dyslexia Handbook parameters. O'Connor High School offered dyslexia services to 14 students. My son was the 15th that was denied access to dyslexia services last year. 0 dyslexia services. So my hope is that you will contact me and that we can discuss how to make dyslexia in Northside a premier program, something that you can be proud of instead of something you're hiding. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our citizens to be heard agenda item. The next item for is curriculum and instruction. Janice?
Yes, sir. This is a related item to the public hearing. This is actually a request for approval to submit the application for the optional flexible school day program. This application must include an implementation plan, staffing, details on how we monitor attendance, et cetera. So you'll see in your packet of information, we've completed all of that, and we just need your approval for us to submit it to TEA.
Do I have any questions for the optional flexible schedule? Dr. Harrell?
No, I don't have any questions. I was going to move your motion.
Oh, okay. So we have a motion. You want to go ahead and,
Oh, I move that we approve the optional flexible school day for Chavez Excel Academy.
do we have a second? So we have a first and a second for the, to approve the optional flexible school day program for the Chavez Excel Academy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Looks like the ayes have it. Motion is forwarded. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Turning off. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Martin Elementary School end of the year target improvement plan.
Yes, sir. As you had expected, we will be presenting the end-of-year report as to how Martin has proceeded and the goals that they set as part of their targeted improvement plan. If you recall, in September, we had our initial report to you that showed the goals that the campus had set based on their data. And then we did a mid-year report in January to show you the progress at that point. I do want to introduce the principal, JJ Pettis, if you'll kind of do a little wave there. And then, of course, Levi Lotta, who has been instrumental with the campus. So what you're going to see here today is very short and sweet because as we've been talking throughout the year, we've had a lot of descriptions about our activities to date. So today we want to show you the results. So there were 3 goals for this campus. The first was to increase the percentage of students meeting each of the designation level on STAR writing. And we're happy to report that we saw tremendous growth in the number of students who met approaches, also growth at meets, a little bit of decline in the masters, but we believe more students getting across that threshold is certainly a positive step forward in really a very short amount of time. The second goal was to increase the percentage of students reading on grade level as measured by an IRI reading inventory. This is Fontes and Pinnell. So what I want you to notice there is you're going to see a little bit of a mixed bag of percentages, and so I want to explain those. One thing that Mr. Pettis saw when he took over, I believe, after Thanksgiving, so it was close to mid-year, was that there was variance in how this inventory was implemented. And so whenever you have variance in the way different tests are implemented, when you get the results, sometimes those results may not represent what students have mastered or not. So much professional learning went into place to not only ensure every teacher understood how to implement these inventories, but then the results were calibrated among teacher teams to ensure teachers were viewing the work of students in similar ways. So as you see here, saw some growth in early grade levels and again at 5th grade, and we will continue to work this particular process as we move forward and hope to see continued growth. The third goal was around 5th graders in particular, and one was around the whole disciplinary infractions and also the improved performance in reading. So much has been put in place in terms of systems and processes and expectations for students, and have seen tremendous improvement in the number of referrals. In that case, a negative is positive. You want to see fewer referrals, and so you see that there. And then again, you see the growth plus 15% of students who met approaches in reading at 5th grade. So where we're going in the future, we will need to submit this report to TEA by the end of this month, which we're required to do. The campus has already conducted a needs assessment based on their data, and they are working now to set goals for the 1920 school year. At our Leadership Institute that we'll have at the end of next month, they will finalize those goals. They will also create their improvement activities, which will drive their professional learning and their priorities for the future. We will continue as a district to provide support, keep an open line of communication so we can ensure the campus has what they need to implement their plan. So are there any questions or comments?
Dr. Harrell.
I think one thing, JJ, I hope your ears were burning, but when Dr. Jordan was presenting, not just this information, but also some other incredible initiatives and programs that are going on, we were very impressed with your leadership. We know it starts with great leaders, and so we're also very proud of you and wanted to celebrate that as well. I know it's not reflected in any report, but thank you for your leadership and your support. And I know the teachers appreciate it, but mostly the kids. So thanks again.
Dr. Harrell said it really well, and I don't have anything to say other than ditto. JJ and his staff have done a tremendous job in a short period of time. I want to thank Levi Lotta for her an incredible amount of work working on this plan through the year, but we see good results and feel very confident with JJ's leadership and the team he's put together that that school will thrive, and so feel really good about where we are. Mr. Pettis, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis. Thank you, Dr. Carroll, Dr. Hall. Any more discussion from any of the board members on this item? No? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the discussion, and if I can have a motion and a second for this item.
Sorry, I should have said,
I'm sorry.
this is on the agenda for approval so that it can be submitted to TEA. We have to have the board's approval before it can be submitted. Sorry, I should have led with that.
Second.
So we have a motion and we have a second. So all in favor of approving the schematic? I'm sorry. I'm cutting and pasting my notes for the. I'll get to it real quick. Okay, for the Martin Elementary School Target Improvement Plan update. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Looks like the ayes have it, so the motion is carried over. Next item is the item C, high school flex schedule.
Mr. Lopez, we're actually going to pull this item. We've got a little bit more work to do, and we'll push that to next month. We'll come back to the board in a month on that topic.
So we'll move that one out, and then we'll now go to facilities and operation. Leroy, you're up.
I almost didn't come up here if you approved that schematic.
I know, right?
The first item we have for you is our newest high school, our Gom Road area high school, which will be our 12th comprehensive high school for Northside ISD. Previously, the Board of Trustees reviewed and approved the conceptual design in order to allow the design to move forward efficiently. Given such a large project, there's processes that we use to check ourselves as we go through the design process. Tonight, you will see the actual proposed schematic design and hope that it will meet your approval so that we can move forward with doing the drawings and specifications for the project. The architects, that's Jerry Lammers from Alamo Architects and Nikki Mironi, our project architects, are here to give us a presentation. But I also like to point out Gary Joris. They're the contractors, by the way. Gary Joris, John Cass-Stevens, and Russ Sema, who has been very instrumental in making sure that we stay on budget. No pressure, guys.
Ready? All right. Well, thank you for having us again, Board President Lopez, members of the board, and Dr. Woods. As Leroy said, we've been here before for concept design. That was back in February. And so, next slide, please, Monica. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about the site, remind you where it is, and then we're going to go through quickly the concept design that was approved earlier this year. Then we're going to talk about the site plan, the floor plans. We're going to come back with a value engineering idea that we had when we first were scheduled to come in front of the board. We were exceeding the district's budget, and this value engineering idea, I think, will get us back into budget. And then we'll discuss how that idea affects the exterior design and show you some views of that. So, next slide, Monica. So if you remember the school, it's at the bend in Gom Road. It's on 107 acres that the district purchased some time ago. It's a reliever for O'Connor and Harlan mainly, and a little on Taft. Next. So the site itself is 107 acres. That includes these two roads, if you recall. Now, one of these roads here, the Gom Road West Road, has been bid, and it will start construction later this summer and finish up this fall before we actually start our construction. At the corner is Government Canyon. It's directly across that. There are houses under construction here, if you remember, and there's Folks, one of its feeder schools. Okay, this is the site itself, looking east from the west. 102 acres of the main site. There's some heritage trees along an old tree line here, if you recall, and then that main tree that's in our front slide. Next, please. This is the entry from Galm West, so the road is being built here with a cul-de-sac there. Next. This is the entry from Galm North. So coming from Galm North, this is under construction. The houses are actually under construction right there, right now. Next slide. Okay, so this is just a brief recap of what we showed you last time. This is the scheme that was selected. So coming from Galm North, you would enter here, Galm West here, parking in the front, building here, athletic fields in the back, and then we have about approximately 25 to 28 acres reserved for future development. The school itself will take approximately 75 acres of the land. So the way the site lays out is the main entry is here. We have an academic wing. The orange is a gym and dressing area, library on the second roof. Magenta is fine arts, green is CTE. Behind the main entry is the cafeteria. Next slide. Just quickly in the concept design for the floor plans, main entry here, administration in the front, academics, PE and gyms, fine arts, CTE on the first floor, and on the second floor, library, academic wings, and main third floor wing. Now the wings are arranged around two courtyard areas that are on either side of the cafeteria. Okay, now this is the massing study we showed you when we were here last. And now we'll go into the schematic design. So these plans will be more detailed, and it's the purpose that we are here tonight. So as you can see, there's a lot more detail shown on the drawings. So the front area is still the same. If you were dropping your kid off from Galm North, you would circle through here, drop them off there. If you were coming from west, you could come in here, circle through here, drop them off there. If you're a bus, you come back here, circle through the bus loop and leave, or you can come the opposite direction and leave. So because we have roughly equal need from both sides, we felt it was important to have sufficient site circulation from both sides. So moving into the entry, I'm going to talk more in detail about this in the next slide, as well as the courtyards. But adjacent to the fine art is the band marching pad, and then adjacent to the dressing rooms and the gyms are the tennis courts. We have space for 12 future portables. Moving across the street, we have our new competition field, which will be an artificial turf surface. And then we have the practice field, the soccer field, and then along the bottom here we have the field events, the softball field, and the baseball field. We're preserving this main line of trees here, which is along that fence line here. And then all these trees here are the ones that are over 8 inches in diameter. So this area will be thinned out so that all the scrub brush and everything is trimmed, just exactly what we did at Stevens Ranch, same idea. I mentioned the bus. We also have approximately 100 parking spaces here that will feed the athletic fields. We have 2 storage buildings for the athletics. In the dressing area, there will be public restrooms that will be available for the exterior full that I will show you when we get to the floor plans. And then the service yard is here. So let's go to the next one. So the plan is rotated 90 degrees. This is that main drop-off here. So coming in from the parking lot, we have visitor parking on each parking field. This is our main drop-off area. The main entry is here. The fine arts entry, our auditorium would be here. The gym, our competition gym would be entry there. In front of the main entry, we have landscaping beds that are raised. And then we have stone benches for the kids to wait on, similar to what we did at Holmes in our Holmes project. When you come to the main entry, there's a canopy, so you just aren't going straight into the building, where people can also wait during inclement weather. Addition to that, we have a fire lane that's accommodated across the front, and then we're proposing 2 different colors of essentially it'd be stained concrete, similar to what we used at Stevens Ranch, that will create a different tone or different color entering the building. It's just a different type of dye for the concrete, actually. So next slide, please. Are there any questions so far? I'm kind of going fast, so. Okay.
Bernal, right, that's what you mean.
I'm Bernal, yeah.
Right.
Did I say
so
Stevens
everybody's
Ranch?
clear,
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
still have the name on the drawings, unfortunately. So in the back, as I said, the bus drop-off will rotate through here. Then we have two courtyards. The one on the right, we are naming the learning courtyard because there's science wings actually here above. And we had to, on a practical sense, accommodate a fire lane that came in here so it would have access to the back of the building. But along that, we're doing the same idea with the two tones of concrete. And then we're going to have outdoor seating areas, again, just made with those stone benches, and then an outdoor classroom that is essentially the blocks of stone arranged adjacent to the cafeteria. We also have a science garden, which was requested by the science department. And on this side is where the main bus drop-off is. You're coming in, that's the outdoor dining canopy. We'll have a grove of trees, and then the art patio adjacent to the art classrooms. And in these two spaces are study knolls, and those are just little hills that the kids can lie on to study or relax during their break. The culinary area is here, and so they requested a culinary garden so that they could grow some of the food that they're going to cook. So we located a small garden outside of their area as well. That's essentially it for the site plan. If you have any questions regarding the site, I will be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. We do have a question. Dr. Harrell?
Oh, no, that must have been from earlier.
Go forward into
Karen
the,
Freeman?
all right,
Okay,
into
so
the
I
floor
guess we're
plan.
okay.
So we'll show you the overall first floor plan. It is quite large, and I'm going to go into it individually, but you'll see that the layout is exactly what was shown in the concept design, in that you come in a main entry here. This will be your first high school with a secured vestibule, so you will come in, check in, and then be badged to go on your way. As you come through, the main stair up, the cafeteria, and then as you go to the left, magenta is the fine arts, the green is the CTE, light blue is the general classrooms, the light green is special education suites, orange is the gym and dressing areas, and then ROTC, which I failed to mention on the site, is here, and their pad is right adjacent to it, their marching pad. So now let's talk a little detail. Next slide. So this is the main academic wing. You come in, administration on your right, counseling on your left, as I said, the secure vestibule, and then the administration wings and the counseling wings too, they lay out very straightforward. There's a loop corridor through here. You'll first come into the reception area, then the principal's secretary, the principal, their conference room. Across the hall is the academic dean and the vice principal. And then you go down this corridor for the assistant principals. The assistant principal reception is here off this corridor, and their reception area, and then support spaces behind that. And then across the hall is the counseling wing. They have their reception, there's the counseling suites, their support spaces, a testing space, the career lab, and the nurses area. So when you come in, the nurses area is up the main corridor, and as you move down the corridor, you have the LGI, the large group instruction. The elevator is right here in that corner, main stair there, cafeteria here, kitchen and central plant. Turning to the left, the dark green you see is CTE support spaces. These are all computer related. Individually, it's the AV photo, this is the computer lab, and then moving down, you have the art classrooms, adjacent art patio. These are health-related CTE spaces. This is the entry into the dance gym, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is the locker area. And then these are childcare and health-related CTE functions. You have a teacher's workroom with their restrooms. Across the hall, there are 4 IT labs, special ed suite for the things that need access to the drop-off area in the cafeteria. There's classrooms here, a teacher's workroom, hallway that goes into the gym area and the athletics, and then on the left, it goes into the fine arts area. Next slide, Monica. So this is the fine arts suite. It's very similar to Holmes in its layout. It's a auditorium for 900 kids with the same, it's tiered or stadium-style seating that Holmes has, that we can tuck things underneath here. The stage is the district standard stage. Behind the stage, we have the Little Theater with its own entry. There's a theater arts classroom, dressing areas. We have mariachi and orchestra. They share offices and storage. And we have small band hall, large band hall, and then the practice rooms. Now, we're proposing to use the same kind of storage facilities that we did at Holmes, where we can increase the amount of storage they have in a smaller area. It's those mobile type storages. One change over Harlan is now we're proposing a larger dance gym. This dance gym is a little bit larger than Harlan's, about 1,000 square feet bigger, with a folding partition in the middle. The need for a large dance gym was expressed, and then now they have simultaneous dance classes at the same time, and that was a request that came from the Fine Arts Department. And then moving down, we have CTE functions. On the left, we have 2 engineering labs with their dirty lab, where maker spaces, where they make stuff. And then across the hall is the architecture lab and the photo. Another lab here. And then as you turn the corner, construction suite with its classroom. This is the culinary arts suite, and it has a culinary lab, the classroom, and a dining room. And then the last CTE lab is there. These are health related. Okay, across the way, main corridors here, the 2 gymnasiums. The dressing rooms are are very similar to Harlan. You have the girls on this side and the boys on this side. These are those 2 restrooms that public can access from the ball fields. There's a little vestibule here so that they can do that. And then the ROTC suite, which I mentioned adjacent to its pad. Next slide. So then the second floor, we have stairs at the 4 corners. And then the main stair, you come up the main stair, the library is here above the admin area. The main library space is here. We have the 2 support classrooms. This is the librarian's desk, a computer area. And then study carrels here. And we're trying to get as much glass transparency as we can into the library. You move to the left, we have 9 science classrooms on this side and 9 on the other side. One of the goals with this design, if you recall, was that the science at Harlan does not have any.
Sounded really good, though.
I know, I was looking right at you when I said that. That's why I said that. They didn't have any windows in any of the science classrooms, so one of the goals here was to get as many science classrooms as we could to have windows so they could grow things, basically, without a light. So we've accomplished that. There are 2 that'll be probably covered up by the adjacent group, but 16 out of the 18 will have windows. There's just general classrooms in this area. Here are the 2 language labs, and then general classrooms. Some of these are labeled as special ed. That doesn't necessarily mean they will special ed, because those are just regular classrooms, and the principal, of course, they lay it out as they see fit. Okay, on the 3rd floor, it's just 26 classrooms, the main stair, 2 flanking stairs, teacher support spaces, restrooms. It's pretty straightforward on the 3rd floor. So now we're going to talk a little bit about a value engineering option we'd like to bring forward. As I mentioned, when we got this far in the design last time, and then we turned the drawings over to Joris, and they did a cost estimate on that design. So our goal with the value engineering was to not change any of the principal design, not change any of the square footage, not change any of the teaching spaces. So we looked at what could we do to the site, the MEP systems, the building structure, the building exterior envelope, and the interior partitions. Those were the things that we attacked the most. What we're going to show you today is, next slide, is a proposal we'd like to make for this middle portion here. Now, the district standard for the building structure is 100% concrete structure. All your new buildings, 100% concrete structure for the, that have been built here recently. What that means is obviously the foundations concrete, the columns are concrete, the floors are concrete, and then the roofs are steel. So the steel's predominantly the main thing for the roof. What we would like to propose is, well, let me back up. So the exterior envelope is all 100% brick on all your buildings. So all the more recent ones, except for homes, which I'll point out in a minute, but is all 100% brick. The value engineering we'd like to talk to you about is changing some of that structure to steel and reducing the amount of brick that's on the exterior. If we can use those two things in combination, we can make our steel structure lighter because it's not supporting brick high off the ground like it is in some of your designs. And we can save money by using a lighter building exterior envelopes, what we would call it in architecture terms. So where do we want to do that? So first thing is in the dressing room, or in the fine arts and the CTE, there would be no change. Everything is to district standard, all concrete construction, exterior brick. The backup wall behind the brick would be concrete masonry units, CMU, and then all the partitions in that area still concrete masonry units are CMU, same as you would do everywhere else. In the dressing areas and gyms, same thing, all concrete construction on the inside, all concrete masonry units for the interior partitions, brick on the exterior, concrete backup wall. Then we want to talk about the academic wing. So on the first floor, we would still do all concrete foundation, and then concrete partitions in the first floor. The structure in this 3-story portion would be made out of steel. And what we would do is then on the second floor and the third floor, that steel structure would go all the way through where you would, on your other buildings, you might have concrete. It would be steel both on the columns, and then the floors would be a composite concrete and steel, just like a commercial building you might do. The exterior walls on those areas above the first floor, except the front of the building, we would propose to change those to a metal stud backup wall with stucco on the exterior, which is a much lighter building system, and it would save us money trying to carry it off the ground. So everything that touches the ground, 100% brick, no change. As we start stepping off the ground, we change to a different building type. Next slide. So how I can explain that the best, I think, is your typical construction, and this is a section. Can you back up one, Monica? I'm sorry. So there's a section through this part of the building and this part of the building. This is section A and that's section B. So next slide. So if we were doing it to the district standard, it would be 100% brick on the exterior here and here. And this is really costly because you're carrying this brick over that roof. But that's the standard, 100% everywhere. What we're proposing in our building is brick up to the third floor on the front, stucco above, and then on the back of the building, above every roof, changing that to stucco so we don't have to carry that brick off the ground. And then while we're doing that, we would change the backup wall to lighten and load so we could lighten our steel. And then in the interior where it would have an effect is you would still have concrete masonry all on the first floor as we discussed, but as you get off the ground, those partitions would change to gypboard and metal stud, which you already have in some of your schools. And then on the straight academic wing, we would go brick up to the second floor and then make the change on the second floor. So that's the BE proposal. We're calculating, or Doris is calculating for us that it's approximately going to save $2 million. So now we want to show you what that might look like. Precedent for this is when we did this building 15 years ago now, it's the Holmes Academic Building. It has a concrete frame building structure, but it has metal stud backup and gypboard on the interior already. And obviously it has stucco on the second floor. It was done the same reason we're talking about doing it today. And then the most recent building at Holmes, what we did back when we designed this is the fly loft changed to steel, which was recommended by the contractor because they, that's 70 feet off the ground, so you would have somebody forming a concrete beam up here 70 feet off the ground. So they were like, we can knock a couple weeks off the schedule if we just convert that piece to steel, which we did. And then the front area here, because of the geometry, that is stucco wall with metal studs behind it. So it already exists at some of your campuses. All right, so what does that look like? We're going to show you a couple of three-dimensional views, and this is the exterior design for the school as it stands today. On the lower floors and in the front element here, as you can see, it's all brick construction. We will have a brick pattern. We will come back to you with the actual color selections and as we develop the pattern further. But the school itself, just to talk about the architecture, we have an arched main entry or gabled main entry. That is that canopy that's out in front of the building, and then a pop-up over the library, clear story to let light in the windows. We have large windows in the library, and then the main entry into the individual pieces are accent colors or a different color than what is the academic wing, which is behind it. The stairs are highlighted in an alternative brick color. And this is the stucco on the front that we were talking about. The third floor would be a stucco. The bricks themselves are basically rose and limestone colors, trying to build on a Government Canyon in terms of the different colors of limestone that you can get. The main entry, the theater arts building, as you can see, is 100% brick up to the fly loft. And then the gym and the dressing area, ROTC area, again, 100% brick. So now some views, what it would look like. So that view off Gom Road West, so you're coming in from the west, you come along the front of the building. You will have the Auditorium and Fine Arts, again, the main entry here. This is the main entry into the building with the library above. Along the line here, you come along the gymnasiums with windows up high. You see the fine art, or the academic wing, the stucco behind, and then the fly loft behind it. Still the main entry, the most prominent thing on the front, so you have there's no confusion about where you should go when you arrive at the campus. Next slide. And this is the one I wanted to show you too. So this looks at the back of the campus. So the areas that we were talking about, stucco, well, first let's talk about the brick, 100% brick all around the first floor. This is the two courtyards, the creative courtyard and the learning courtyard. Then, as I said, where we're proposing stucco is up high. So this wall here, the back of the auditorium, that back area on the academic wing, the second floor on these academic wings, all that would be painted stucco. We're showing some clear stories into the main wings and over the main stair. Windows into the classrooms, as you can see, these are the science classrooms flanking here. Bus drop-off is here. This is the service area, and we'll have two HVAC chillers. So that's really our presentation. Go to the last slide. So, questions, comments?
Okay, any comments from the board? Dr. Harrell?
So real quick, on the fine arts building, the reason why there's no windows because we need sound protection or sound?
If you'll back up,
Okay.
Monica, one slide. So this is the fine arts right here. So those are the band halls. So we do have windows. In
Okay,
those.
I'm looking at the front view, sorry.
Oh, on the
No.
front, that's all the auditorium.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the side
That's
of
where
the
the
auditorium.
stage is and, okay, gotcha. Thanks. And then the gym too, I had the same question. Let me see if
Yeah,
I
the
can.
gym, all of these are windows into the gym, right?
Gotcha.
here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Katie?
Yeah, the building committee had this presentation a couple of weeks ago.
Last week, I think.
Last week. And we had a lot of the same questions that you had, but we had seen the original plans that were drawn and given to the contractors, and understood that we were way over budget, and so it went back again to find a way to reduce the cost. And I applaud your efforts from both you and from the contractors to come up with the suggestions that we have to solve the problem of expenses. And if we can even do a little bit better as we go along, that would be even better. So,
We're continuing. I didn't mention that.
I
but
would move
it goes
approval
on.
of the schematic design as presented.
Okay. We have any other board members that would like to discuss this? Ms. Freeman?
I have a question. I asked this during building committee, but I want to ask it again, just to make sure. I think it's important for other board members. We're not sacrificing anything regarding the structural soundness of this building by putting stucco in as opposed to the brick, other than, and not pertaining to the structure, but that would be still, there's no difference.
No, in fact, Holmes is your best,
Let me answer that if I can. One of the things that, Ms. Freeman, we were very concerned about is the quality of our facilities. Those are going to last us 50 years plus. And one of the things, that's why we spend a lot of time internally understanding what is being proposed and why. And one of the things that we looked at is models that we already have in existence throughout the entire district. As Jerry mentioned, stucco is not unusual for us to use in very high places, and also places where inaccessibility for a multitude of other reasons. So we looked at the quality. So we could not propose and recommend to the board anything that reduces the quality of our buildings. Some of the hallways are going to be sheetrock. We haven't had very many of those, but we do have them, and they're in good shape. We can attest to the fact that that will last us for a long period of time. And again, we spend just a lot of time asking our questions ourselves internally with the whole team, the collaboration, whatever longevity, quality, and soundness of the building are being maintained at all cost, and the answer was yes. The other thing I will say, just another comment, is, when we build a high school or even a middle school, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out all the pieces. Jerry has done absolutely a great job trying to pull that all together for us. I can tell you that every piece of that facility has been vetted through the entire district. And I'm talking about from CTE to athletics to special ed to PE, science, et cetera, all have come together. We build so much that we learn from our lessons from the previous facilities that we built. And one of the things is, the science, the types of science and things of that nature. Just to make a point, it has been really vetted. We've even asked Robert Harris to come back, says, you just opened a new school. Tell us about how it operates, what you like to see, what you don't like to see, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I want to give a lot of kudos to the design team and certainly our staff for being heavily engaged in the entire process.
Thank you for taking the time to explain.
Okay, Mr. Medina?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lammers. Thank you, Mr. Jurist, for being here. I was just following up back on Ms. Reed's comment regarding the estimated savings. Is that the savings to our original budget, or is that to the estimate?
Well, we presented a budget to the architects and tell them this is what we got to work with. As you know, when we first started the discussion very early on, we were over our budget. So then we actually asked them to review, and those are some of the recommendations that are coming forward. So the budget that we now have established is comfortably within what you see here if we accept the VE items that are being presented.
So the 2 million below our budget?
No.
So from the estimate?
Yes, from our original budget, we are over our budget.
Okay.
However, we feel comfortable where we are because anything else would sacrifice either quality or classrooms or things of that nature.
Okay. Next one is Bobby.
Yeah, just one question, sort of follow what Trustee Medina was asking. The relative stability of cost of brick versus the stability cost of the value engineering material, is that, projection-wise, is that relatively stable, or how's it actually look?
yeah, they should be, well, I don't know what else.
They're the experts in material cost. So,
I would say the metals and things like that are more in flux right now. The bricks and the stucco, the local products aren't as, they're not moving around as much.
Okay, I asked that because what, is there 2 million from now, is it still 2 million a couple years down the line? From what you're saying, it probably, your estimate is stayed up. Okay, good, thank you. And I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Yeah, we have a motion by Katie and then a second by Bobby If we can go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and, any more discussions? No more? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the discussion. If we can move forward with the vote on the schematic design for the Gom Road. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Only hearing ayes, motion is carried forward.
If I could quickly just make a comment and echo what's been said, thanks to Jared Lammers and the Alamo team, thanks to Gary Joris and John Stevens and the Joris team for getting us to where we are in a comfortable place to go forward with this project and get it open on time. One of the things I didn't say is that we estimate the population at Harlan High School the last day of school the year before this opens to be above 3,600 students. So getting this school on the ground and open on time is significant priority.
Thank you, Dr. Next item is the schematic design for the John Marshall Law Program.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. We have another design for you. This is one of those that's rather unique to us because we don't build magnets literally as much as we do elementary schools and the other types of facilities. And so with that, let me make just a couple of comments. This is for the schematic approval from John Marshall Law and Medical Services Magnet, which I believe is our 6th magnet school. It's important to note that there's been a tremendous amount of research given the uniqueness of this particular project. As you know, it's a combination of law and medical services, and so Pfluger Architects have helped us somewhat grab our arms around the program, which we spend about 3 or 4 months looking at that. So from that perspective, we have involved literally everybody that we can think of, our principals, the administrators, CTE director, of course, to name a few, including the new LMS advisory members, which comprises of professionals in their own field, in the field of law and medical services, and they were not shy about giving us advice of what works, what doesn't work in the real world, and what they practice and things of that nature. So we took all of that to heart. And again, Pfluger was able to put all of that together and help us sort through a somewhat complex but rather unique situation. We also had an opportunity, facility staff, the architects, and the magnet principal to visit other similar facilities. We went to St. Mary's Law School, talked to professors there about what they're teaching and things of that nature, and took the opportunity for the architects to also look at the mock courtroom that we intend to put in here so that the kids can actually use it effectively, somewhat in the real world application, so to speak, in their practicum. So from that, I'm going to turn it over to Carr Hornbuckle, Pfluger Architects, and Andrew Pettis to give us the schematic design presentation.
Thank you, Leroy. Good evening, everyone. We've also been with you all before, just like you saw on Gom Road, to talk about the concept for what is now being presented to you tonight for a schematic design. And by way of a refresher on that, we looked at conceptually where this facility might work best on the campus, because not only are we creating this magnet program, but we're also charged with addressing some of the needs of Marshall High School. On the next slide, just as a recap, this is what was included to be accomplished within the bond. So we're replacing 2 of the existing metal buildings. I think they were originally for the ag program before O'Connor was built. That's where ROTC is located now and some of the existing CTE. There will be some relocation of some of the athletic fields once those buildings are taken down. And then the creation of this new building for the Law and Medical Services Magnet, along with the replacement of Building B, the 2-story classroom building where the classrooms are about 600 square feet or less. And then lastly, there will be improvements on the campus for the remainder of the existing CTE programs. So on our next slide, we have a site plan just to give you a little bit of an orientation for what will be accomplished while this project is taking place. We're taking into account where portables will be located on campus in the upper right quadrant. There are existing portables there, and there's going to be more added to support the magnet program, which is actually going to kick off this year, as well as some of the displacement during construction. We're also attuned to initially getting going with the demolition of Building B, which is number 1 on this site plan, utilizing the existing parking area right next to that. Obviously, parking will be a challenge, particularly while this is under construction. There's a separate staging area we're noted just for reference with regards to the library project that is getting underway right now. That library renovation and expansion will be under construction through next spring. So our project, pending approval tonight, will really dovetail with that and kind of keep going from there through beginning some work next spring and going through next summer and the following school year. So on the next slide then, this is where we're going to end up, if you will, in terms of the overall site diagram. So building 1 is the new replacement facility, the new magnet building. Number 2, there will be renovations, as I mentioned, in existing building L for some of the programs, particularly those that are offset by replacing or taking down buildings M and M. At the front of the site along Eckert, we're accounting for an offset of that parking we're taking out, number 3. And number 4 is a relocated and enlarged soccer field. So the soccer field at Marshall will now meet district standard. And at the rear of the campus, number 5, once we move softball back there, that will also meet standard for the district, or for the campus within the district. Do you have any questions on the site before I move on and talk about the building?
Nobody has any questions? Okay.
So as we mentioned last time conceptually, this is now going to be a 3-story building. The idea behind this 3-story layout is that there's 2 different unique components within this magnet. The law and professional services, as well as the health careers programs. So on the main floor of the building, these are all of the academic spaces that relate to the law magnet. So there are political science classrooms, legal services classrooms. There's a plan for a fire science program, an emergency medical technician program, as well as a police program. We're also incorporating the campus ROTC facilities into the building. So off the far right of this plan is the ROTC suite of classrooms. It will open up directly to their ROTC marching pad on the site. So it's immediately adjacent. The other unique opportunity we have with this project is to actually address some of the shortcomings for Marshall in terms of the entry to the campus. You'll see a little bit more of that when we look at the verticality of the building. But right here, this project is also anticipating a secure entry vestibule for one of your high schools. So there will be a new secure vestibule for all visitors to the campus to enter. They will be greeted by someone from the reception area from Marshall High School. And if they are there to meet with administrators or faculty within the magnet, they can be raptored through and go on into the magnet program. On the second floor then, this is the floor given over towards the health careers portion of the, not health careers, health programs within the magnet. So it's a suite of health classrooms tied to CTE, along with some shared lab spaces, collaborative spaces that those classrooms fit into. I also want to, well, I mentioned collaboration. So because we've been able to spend all of this time with the folks thinking about the curriculum itself, along with the advisory council, they're really interested in this program being unique in terms of utilizing some project-based learning skills, where the students are really working not just on their work within the classroom, but also having some space to kind of spread out and open up from within that. So on the main floor, as well as on this floor adjacent to the lobby, we have some shared collaborative space along with a lecture area, so they can bring students out of class if there's a guest lecturer to come in and speak. This is somewhat unique. Thank you. Within what's currently provided, so we're interested in the opportunity for what this will create. We'll have some views in a second for you to see a little bit of what those spaces look like. Can you go back one slide for a second? We're also looking at creating a collaborative space here on the main floor within the law half of the magnet program. This is immediately adjacent to this suite of legal services classroom. So, for example, one of the things that came up, if they have a visiting judge, hint, hint, who would come for say, mock trials. This suite of classrooms is actually designed to open up and be one larger shared space for a larger trial to take place, with smaller trial pods where students are preparing their defense preparing their cases, but then they can utilize this space for larger group activity as well. If we go on 2 slides, then you'll see the 3rd floor of the building. These are general learning classrooms. This really offsets the teaching space that's in the existing building B. So this is what would mainly be used by Marshall High School. You'll note right here while I pause that this set of stairs is immediately adjacent to the courtyard on site. So many students who aren't in the magnet but will be taking class in this, English language arts is in building B right now. If Marshall stays the same and they put English up here, and I'm a Marshall student, I can get very easily from the courtyard up to this 3rd floor to go to class and then go back out into the rest of the campus. So that was kind of the thinking about how the building itself is organized. I'll also mention that in future bonds, part of our master planning effort is to think about what may happen next. And so the idea is that in a subsequent bond, the remainder of Building A would be replaced, most likely with its own multi-story facility. So each of these floors is designed so that even from this 3rd floor and from the 2nd floor beneath it, it can connect through to a future multi-story addition and basically keep going, if you will, to that side. So with the remainder of the images now, we have some vantage points to get a feel for what this will start to look like. This bird's eye view is as though we're standing back on the other side of Eckert Road, looking at the front of the campus. So to orient yourself, here's the auditorium on the left, the existing auditorium. This is the library. This view takes into account what it will look like when the current project starting this summer is completed. And then from this point going to the right, this is actually the new facility that we're presenting to you this evening. And on the slide immediately following this, this would be the view if you were standing on Eckert Road looking at that entire elevation. What we wanted to accomplish with this and what we're bringing to you is the idea that, number one, we wanted to be able to create a sense of entry really for all of Marshall High School, which right now, because the entry is so small, it kind of gets lost. But also give you an opportunity to feel like this building responds to the rest of the campus in a way that it could have always been there. So the scale is just very different from what exists right now. One of the things they taught us in architecture school is when you hear a good idea, you steal it. So part of what Jerry presented, we're actually looking at here as well. We talked about, from a massing point of view, that this building, because it's 3 stories and there aren't any 3-story buildings at Marshall, we may be looking also at using brick masonry on our first 2 floors and stucco on the upper floor. That upper floor is also recessed back, so that'll change the scale so it's not as looming, especially when you get up closer to it. In the next image, this kind of explains a little bit more of what I mean. So that 3rd story is actually not right out at the front of the building like it would be on floors 1 and 2. And so even though we're not presenting materials tonight, what we're thinking is that this is also going to be a project where we're combining some brick masonry and some stucco. And then, of course, just the overall colors, the character we're looking at is just picking up on the rest of Marshall. The idea is to just carry that forward. This vantage point is sort of looking right directly at the front of the school. On our next slide, we show you the other end of the building. So this would be the approach from, I'm totally blanking, it's not Robin, Lobo Lane. If we're coming around Lobo Lane with the football field here on the right. The reason why this view is important, if you think about a lot of your comprehensive high schools like Galm Road, like Harlan, when you're looking at the front of the school, you sense where the entry is along with fine arts, the auditorium, and the gymnasiums. Well, because Marshall is an existing campus, where this facility goes, it's kind of in front of where the gym is. So what we're trying to plan for in the long term is thinking about how athletics will work, because in a future bond, it's likely that you'll get to the point where you are able to look at those athletics facilities and replace them. But for the time being, what we're doing is basically creating a crosswalk here across Lobo to go to a pedestrian way that takes you back to a plaza that's in front of the existing main gym. On the next slide, we show that space a little bit further. So this is an outdoor space that currently doesn't exactly exist, but it's basically leading visitors to the campus back past around our building to get to the existing main gym entry. On this image, you also see here on the left, this is that marching pad for ROTC, the ROTC marching pad. There, they can come directly out of the building right here to go to use that. This plaza is kind of a gathering space that can be used for athletic events, basketball games, volleyball games, etc. And it just gives you a sense of the sort of the elevation of the campus that faces back towards the campus. On the next slide, I believe we step inside the building. So this is an image in that collaborative space that's really can be used by students, but it's not inherently programmed for a classroom and teaching space. Looking from our main corridor, so this would be leading off towards our health classrooms, and looking in towards what's on the next slide, this gathering space, the upstairs above the secure vestibule where we put in a learning stair. So this would be a lecture space for students to use. Again, we're not committed to these colors or these materials at this point. We'll bring those back to you like we typically would, but right now we just wanted to give you a feel for what the spaces inside the building might start to look like. And so with that said, we would be glad to answer any questions that you have.
So I'll make one comment. It's going to change the face of Marshall.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Katie?
Yeah, please, thank you. I am just delighted with the appearance and actually the practicality of how this is going to work on this campus. But one of the things really that I highlighted for me tonight with this presentation, even though I've heard it a couple of times already, was when you look at the front of the school, what we originally planned to design for the library fits in so well with the way the entire front campus now looks. Because you have sort of the tall pieces on each end there a little bit, and the whole thing just looks like it's a brand new school. And it's quite remarkable, and actually, Marshall will love those colors. At least the roofs, anyway. So if there are any other questions from any of the board members, feel free to ask, but I would certainly move approval of the schematic design.
Thank you. Yeah, we have Karen.
Thank you. This is outside the scope of this particular presentation, but where did we say, so the library is being demolished, where are where are our students going to access library facilities on that campus?
We're moving them to another building temporarily. I think in building C. I think building C, which is in the back there, that we're going to, kind of renovate a couple of spaces to put a library in there temporarily. And then they'll move back sometime next year. Right there, yes.
Where they'll be just for this.
It's not too far from the existing library now.
Thank you. I didn't remember talking about that from before, but thank you.
Okay. Dr. Harrell.
One real quick question, and maybe you said it in a way that it'll come at a later time, but you were going to have a mock-up courtroom?
Yes.
So that design's going to come later on, or okay. Can't wait.
Right, what we've done now is just allocate the spaces.
Perfect.
Think about adjacent.
Gotcha. Love it. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions? No questions. We have a motion on the floor by Katie, and then we had a second by Joseph. Is that who I heard? Okay.
Well, we did it in harmony.
In harmony, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close the floor, and then we've got the motion and a second. All in favor of the schematic design for the John Marshall Law Medical Service Magnet Program, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Then it's approved. Motion is forward.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful design. Thanks, gentlemen.
The next item is the item number C, Gom Road Area High School naming of road number 1.
Correct. As you may remember, the last time we were before you, we had two roads to be named. Only one was approved, and then we went through the process of getting it to the United States Postal Service, which is responsible for making sure that that they give us the name that will not be confusing and things of that nature. So they have their own internal process. So road number 2, Tall Timber, where, if you remember in the slides a little while ago, is where the big, huge tree is at. So that's already been approved, and we're moving forward for the naming of, or providing that name through the plating process to Bexar County. However, we still got one more name, one more road to be named, and that would be road number 2. We did provide some suggestions earlier on. We even went as far as just putting in or submitting a handful of names, just in anticipation that the United States Postal Service didn't have any objections to the 2 or 3 names that were previously approved by the board. So in your package, you will also find the names that were already pre-approved by the United States Postal Service. However, the board has not approved those, so therefore we're not submitting any of those names until we get direction. It was suggested at one time or another that it be named after a retired facilities person. And so we provided in your packet as well the 3 or 4 names that are the most recent, so to speak. And so what we're recommending is that we select a name, so to speak, hopefully give us 2 or 3 names, because United States Postal Service, sometimes they kick out stuff. And the last time we went through this, took us about 8 months to do the last one. Ms. Reed remembers that one, because we had to go back and forth. So again, we're suggesting or recommending that the board provide us a name so that we can. The other thing is it's time sensitive because of the fact that we platted the roads differently 2 separate times, and the plat will be submitted probably within about a month. So they will not accept it without a name.
Okay, so let me just make this clear. I understand this. So we're asking for a name recommendation for road, what number? Road number? Road number 1. Am I correct?
Correct.
Which is, what are the following names which is these, is that what we're asking for from Paul Mergel?
Well, these are recommendations.
Okay, these
of
are recommendations.
retired,
If we would like to look
facilities
at those
person.
individuals.
It could be considered.
Right. Okay. So this is where I'm gonna need help. Kind of help me with this, since it's a little
Sure.
tricky. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. We're gonna need.
I think if we could get from the board, you've essentially got under the ones the Postal Service has already signed off on, and then in answer to the request about, as we had in the past, we had named a road in the past for a recently retired facilities person. So you've really got 8 possibilities there. If we could get that narrowed down to 2 or 3, that we could then resubmit if necessary to the Postal Service, that would be helpful to us.
Okay. So anybody want to make any recommendation? Karen?
Before we go any further, I just want to call attention, one of the names is Bush Drive. I think we need to think about that because there is a prominent Texas family by the last name of Bush. So if that's what we meant or not, it could be perceived as one or the other. So just as we talk about what we want to name that, I think we ought to think about that.
Okay. Katie?
When the building committee met, we had a little discussion about this and didn't get anywhere with it. So, so it's not an easy thing to do. I would agree that I do not think Bush Drive works. And the unfortunate thing is I don't think we have any junipers there either, do we?
Don't think so, but I don't know for sure, to be honest with you.
Which means if we really do away with both of those, that we have nothing but people's names left. The people from your organization plus 2 others, one of which we already have sort of designated something to be named after them. So that would leave either Seawald, Mergely, Qualls, Kerr, or Casey. So I'll let the rest of the board members nominate. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else would like to discuss this? Or offer a recommendation? So we know that, just from talking to Katie, Juniper and Bush would be out. So you know,
Well,
or you don't want them to be out, or you just want to?
That's up to the board to decide, not me.
Okay, so let's decide. Let's knock them down to 3 out of those names. Anybody
And
want to?
including the names of the
From the
retired. Yeah.
retired, yes.
I just want to make a suggestion that, and I would have to get help on making sure I pronounce it right, but Paul Meagerly, am I saying it right?
Megerly.
Megerly, because of years of experience and contributions to the district, as one of those names.
Okay. Anybody else would like to offer any? Okay. Dr. Hall, you already got that?
Yeah, I did.
Karen?
I was thinking, we do this all the time with school names and such. What if we all just pick 2 and then see where we are?
Good idea.
Does this have to be, when was the deadline? You said it had to be right away?
Yes, we're getting to the point where in
We
about a
need
month,
it
we're going to
right
be
away.
submitting
Because of the city.
So-
our plating, for our plating, the name has to be there.
So, yeah, if we can go ahead and come up with a decision and let's just go ahead and move it forward, you know?
Yeah, I agree, yeah. Yeah, I agree, I think pick 2.
Sure.
See where we are.
Pick 2 and go from there? And then wait or vote on them right now?
Let's vote.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Just for clarity, if I could, is that 2 among the 8 that are eligible? Because when we started the conversation, we started with 8 eligible names.
Right.
Okay, just trying to be clear.
That's good.
But you
Thank
actually need 3 names though, right?
Yes, something to consider as well is if you select from the ones that have been pre-approved, that's going to be approved.
Okay.
So I would suggest that if you select 2 or 3, give me a priority order. But I can tell you that if you select, for example, Bush Drive, and that's priority 1, we'll submit that, and that's going to be approved.
Okay.
I gotcha.
Yeah, because it's been pre-approved.
So it's just
All right, Karen, so you're good?
So we're going to write down 2 names and just,
No.
or just say them out
We have
loud?
Katie as,
Okay,
hold
let's
on,
go down the line.
hold on, I've got Katie as one more.
Okay, I was gonna recommend Seawald Path. Lynn Seawald has, chaired our,
Shack.
well, not just the shack, but she was in charge of the entire PE program in the Northside School District for I don't know how many years. And I think that would be an honorable name also, so I would recommend that.
What was your other one? I thought we were doing 2 each.
Oh, I was not gonna do 2 each, but then,
Okay.
is that,
Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah.
okay.
If we're trying to generate kind of a top 3, I think
3,
that would be
we're going to do
helpful.
2.
Okay,
Somebody else make a nomination.
Okay.
Okay, Bobby.
go ahead.
Yeah, okay, I'll say, I would hold off, to be honest, on Seawald Path. I think something else may come up later. Yeah, I would hold out, but and I know I can't do Green Acres, but I did want to throw that in for the record.
That got kicked out.
But my 2 are, how do you say it again? Harley?
Megerly.
Megerly. Close. Megerly and Casey.
And Casey, okay. Dr. Harrell?
And I'm kind of glad that Cougar Den wasn't on there for a couple reasons, but one, it's already a mascot at Clark,
Okay.
and Clark is still bitter that there's a street named Brandeis right there. So we didn't want to repeat that naming again. So you don't think so? It was pre-named? How could that have possibly happened, really? I'm still sticking with Megerly.
As your first choice? It
Yes.
doesn't matter, okay.
Yes. Wow.
It doesn't matter.
And I'm still thinking. I'm still tossed. I'm going to wait and listen.
Okay.
I'm tied.
Next one? Karen?
I'm going to say Megerly and Juniper Breeze.
Okay.
Okay, I have my second one. I could go for Juniper Breeze only because I love
Okay.
Juniper so much better than Cedar. But Terry Casey was an environmental coordinator. I'm just throwing this out as thinking out loud. And this is such an environmentally friendly school. It's going to be one with the environment. I don't know enough about that position to see that environment coordinator. Was he in charge of?
Everything having to do with environmental, whether
Like
it's
Soil,
asbestos, air quality, you know, things of that nature for literally 29 years in the
I think that's
district.
kind of cool. That's what I'm tied between. So I could go either way.
So you have Magerly and then who else?
Terry Casey and Juniper Breeze. Sorry, Juniper.
You're not making it easier. You're not making it easy. Okay. Next one.
Go with the board.
Okay, Joseph?
Juniper Breeze.
Juniper?
Yep.
One more.
Just it?
Just
Okay, there you go. You know what you want. That's it.
Juniper.
I got it.
It's hard to say 3 times real fast.
Okay, so,
So since I only did one.
sure.
I'll come back and do Jennifer Breeze also.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Juniper.
So that's.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna,
5.
that's gonna be Juniper. That's it. I don't,
That would be first choice.
yeah, that's my first and last, only choice.
Given where we are with that, the fact that that had already been approved, that would be the name.
Okay.
We'll submit it right away. Hope nobody else picks it up in the interim, so.
It'll be a nice science project to try to figure out that Juniper piece of it.
Let's
Or maybe plant some in the garden. There we go. There we go. We solved
imagine
that.
telling somebody you're going to plant a cedar tree.
Solved it.
I would suggest that we get a motion to go forward.
If I can just have a motion from the building committee for the naming of the, I'm sorry, let me just go back up real quick, for
Number 1.
Gom Road, naming of road number 1.
Okay.
Katie?
After a lot of discussion, it has been become obvious that the choice would be to name the Gom Road number 1 for Juniper Breeze.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any more discussion? None? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the discussion. With that, we have a motion by Katie and a second by Joseph. All in favor of naming the road number 1 for Gom Road, or Gom Road, naming of road number 1, Juniper.
Breeze.
Breeze, sorry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against? Looks like the ayes have it. Thank you. We are now moving into the business and finance. David, you are up.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. This evening, this will be the third presentation to the board of the growth and improvement. The presentation that I'll walk through rather quickly this evening is the same one you saw last week. So, and at the end of that, I certainly can answer any questions and will recommend approval. So, the 3 things that we do include in our growth and improvement packages, keep in mind this is the first step of getting these items into our budget that we'll consider in August. Will be the new schools, the growth and improvement items, which do include the mandated items, and those are basically existing contracts where we have some sort of rate adjustments or things of that nature. And then also we do have other funds that we include in the growth and improvement packages. Our new schools, this is a little unusual for this year because we are not opening a new school. So the new schools include the startup and base startup cost and base cost of our newer schools, let me put it that way. And in this particular growth and improvement package, that's just a little over $1 million. The next item, which is much larger, is our growth and improvement. You can see that, and this is again the same as last week, is close to $20 million we're requesting to put into our budget for approval in August. Most of that, certainly the biggest piece of the pie there, if you will, is 76% of that amount is going to curriculum instruction, particularly in our expansion of our pre-K program. Next slide, the total that brings us for our general fund budget is just a little over $21 million. That is a little bit higher than what we had been anticipating in our financial models, but again, that's due to the expansion of the pre-K program, and you can see the majority of these dollars are campus-based dollars, so we continue to direct our resources into the campuses, whereas the rest is going to be for district-wide services or district-wide based budget items. Other funds that we included in growth and improvement, child nutrition, that's actually some startup dollars. Again, these haven't changed, a little over 67,000. Learning Tree, we do have some expansion there. That's a little over $1 million. And then the human resources, that's actually our workers' comp self-insurance program, and those are costs that are going up in order to run that particular program.
I would just say very quickly, back one slide, that a good chunk of the Learning Tree expansion is also associated with full-day pre-K, as we're going to offer extended day care to those children. So just to tie that together. Sorry, David.
And then when we put the two together, the general fund impact and the other funds, you can see that we have an increase of a little over 22 million. And this is by division, and again, the curriculum and instruction and the pre-K expansion, we did want to pull out that staffing so you can see what kind of impact that actually makes. From this point forward, we do anticipate a few adjustments that will carry over into the August budget preparation, and as usual, we'll detail those for the board and communicate those in Friday letter and other communication methods. And with that, President Lopez, the administration would recommend approval of the growth and improvement packages as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Do we have any questions from anybody on the board? Looks like we don't have any. So with that, since I was the chair, I don't think I can make a motion, can I?
Technically, you can.
Technically, I can.
You can.
Yeah, well, we're set up, you can.
Since I was a sitting chair, okay. We did discuss a lot of this in the Finance Committee meeting today, in our committee meeting. And there was a lot of good discussion, and a lot of this, and what we're looking at is covering our, facilities for our new campuses, and like Dr. Wood said, was for our, pre-K program, which we're investing money in. So a lot of this was really good stuff that we talked about. So I therefore would move that we approve the growth and improvement package as presented by David Rastelini.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussions? All in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion is passed. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
The next item is the superintendent. On this one, we've got items A, B, C, E, and D and E, and F, and G, as we were thinking about maybe moving those for another date since Melissa isn't here. Can we go ahead and, I mean, are you all okay with us moving those items back a little bit to another meeting when Melissa's here? Okay,
I think,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think, and Katie, help me, if we move them to July, you're not here at the July board meeting, and I'm not here for the August board meeting.
Is
So-
there a possibility of doing it on the 17th?
Actually,
The fall meeting?
I was going to recommend it.
Because everybody's going to
can't-
be here for the retreat that same
Exactly.
day.
If
and-
that's what I
I
was
mean,
gonna
that's
suggest.
what I would like to see happen, if possible.
I was actually going to recommend that that we, because of where we are in compensation, we'll probably need a called meeting anyway. And so, since we're all going to be gathered for a different purpose, we'll advertise a called meeting for that evening of the 17th, and very likely have these items, if that's the desire of the board, as well as discussion on compensation.
Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and postpone or move items A through G until our next call board meeting. Okay. So let us go to item H, future agenda items. Dr. Woods?
Yes, sir. In your blue folder, you've actually got 3 documents that I would point out. One is four. One is the committees, but we've delayed that now till July, so we'll certainly bring that back to you in July. You do have a copy of what we're carrying at the moment on future agenda items. There's a form that we ask you to get back to Ms. McGee, which is travel arrangements around Tasby, when you might be going, what events you might be attending, and so forth. So we would ask you to get that to Ms. McGee. And then lastly is a copy of the graduation photo that that the 8 of us took, I think on day 1 before we got a little weary, you know. So compliments of Mr. Pettis and the communications department. So,
have that one.
and
Actually, this is Gerald's.
that's it, Mr. Lopez.
Okay, thank you.
I think-
We're going to go ahead and go into item executive session.
Here, or in
We're ready.
She better stay here, she'll be quick.
We're here, we're good.
Does Carol have Bobby's folder?
He has.
His name on it?
He has.
Oh, okay.
Is this
He does?
Yeah, the other one, that one.
This one?
If I just read this one from the board for the executive session? Okay. So,
All I need to sign is this first page.
okay, so it is for during the course of the duty posted meeting, the Board of Trustees determines that a closed or executive session is required regarding an item posted on the agenda. That session will be held on on all subjects that of purposes permitted by sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.0082, 551.084 of the Government Code of the Open Meetings Law. If a final vote is required on any matter considering the closed or executive session, it shall be taken either upon the reconvening of the public session covered by the notice of a subsequent duly posted public meeting as the board shall determine. So we will be going into executive session at exactly 9:12 p.m. Okay, so we are back in executive session and open session. I'm sorry. We are back in from executive session into open session and at 9:28. And do we have any recommendations before the board?
Move that we approve the recommendations as presented to us earlier.
Do we have a second?
Second.
For appointments.
Okay. So we have a motion and then we have a second by, sorry, I didn't see Karen. Okay. We have a motion and a second and by Karen in for the appointments of the, as presented by Ray Galindo in executive session. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is passed. This is it. So we are now adjourned